No, there we go. Deconverted man here. So I was I joined in real late to the Aaron Raw talk with this guy that believes in Marxism, is a Marxist. Um, Now, as far as I'm aware, historically, Marxism's been tried and failed. It didn't succeed. The ideas in it, the ideology of it, just failed. People died as a result, and so if it's been tried and failed, why do it again? It's like we already tried it; it didn't work. We, being the world, a number of people in chat were talking back and forth, and that was the point I wanted to make. And somebody in chat said, "Well, true Marxism has never been tried," and I've heard that. I've heard that claim. So I wanted to see if anyone from that chat would join me here, because I said, "Hey, I'll go live. Let's talk about it." But I don't think anyone followed me. I know Frustrated wanted to get in and talk to the guy to clear things up, but I don't know why I can't. I was going to invite him in here, and I'm not sure why, but I can't do that. So I'm going to look him up on Twitter and just message him to join me, because maybe he's got things to say that he didn't get to say. What the heck? I was following him on Twitter. Why did it took off my follow? Well, that's the bleep. Okay, that's weird. All right, well, I don't know what happened there. Hey. All right, so I sent the invite to him on Twitter. Don't know if he's busy or not, so no idea if he'll join or not, but hey, here's Nova Fox. Yeah, that's where I got the idea to do this, is because people still wanted to talk. I was thinking that people might still want to talk about Marxism or other political ideologies, ideas that are out there, and explore them. Now, I'm no expert on it, but I just, can apply the logic of, if we as humanity tried System X and System X failed us, then don't try System X again, because it's probably not going to work again. And I think that people say, well, they did it wrong. Here's like, well, how did they do it wrong? Like, you have to show that a different system, and then you would have to demonstrate that that would work to some degree. So, without doing it to a large number of people, maybe you could do it in a small enough group. But then, of course, there's questions about doing that, because with a small group, you can accomplish things that a larger group might not succeed at. So a small group of people might be able to all agree to have a community that's a nudist colony, for example. But the larger that you get, the less people might agree to that idea. And so it has to be voluntary to come in, and only the people that are interested in doing that are going to join. So there's an automatic filtering mechanism. Whereas if you just say by fiat, by the state's power, everybody now must be nudist. If people rebel against that, then you have a civil war at your hand, or you have everybody against the government, or and so the will of the people, what is that, and how do you balance that with the will of the government, and all these sort of questions. Yeah, the chat was toxic. I don't know. I was just there for the last little bit. I got to go back and watch the whole thing. I'm interested. Nova, if you want to talk live, you can join me here if you want. Let me know in the chat if you want to do that. I don't know. Some people don't have microphones or whatever, or don't want to talk out loud. So they say, I think talking ideas from Marxist ideas is fine. but basing entire government on ideas isn't a good idea. Everyone is equal sounds good on paper, but corruption is inevitable. Well, everyone isn't equal. That's already, to me, pretty evident. I mean, there's things I can do, but somebody else could do better. And so it's not equal. I mean, it's like, well, if we have a race, one of us is going to win. And if we continue to have a race on foot, one of us is going to win more often than the other one. And so, in at least a foot race, that person is better than me. So, if you were picking people to do a job based on running, you would pick the one that's faster than me, ideally, or the one that can last longer than I can at running, or maybe a mix thereof. And why wouldn't you? Because it only makes sense to pick the person that's better at the job than somebody that isn't. And that's just, it makes sense. But if you say, well, everyone is equal, well, no, I'm not going to be able to run as fast or as long as that other person. So because you still have to hire me, that means that whatever it is that I'm supposed to do, I'm not going to ever do as fast as that person. So, whatever it is, it's gonna be dragged down by me. And then there's multiple areas where that would fail because we're not all equal. Nova was the one that said that you could do music, right? Or something like that. And I said to email me because I would love to have a music person. I have a negative on my video already. Like, who thumbed me down? Come on, come in here and talk to me if you want to thumb me down. Come on. Like, you haven't even heard what I have to say. You're already like, you don't like me already because I'm talking smack about Marxism. I mean, like, I don't get that. So I'll counter your thumb down with my own thumb up. It's weird. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't promote innovation unless government wants it. Individual innovation is stifled. Okay, so Nova, I'll put my email in chat, and then I'll just ask you to email me with whatever info you have about music and stuff, because I'd love to talk to you about that. I have a number of songs written. I don't know anything about music, so I can't make them happen. And I had a friend of mine help me last time with a number of ideas I had. He just basically created them. So if I could find somebody that would do something like that again that'd be great. DONCO. Okay. Anyway, so that's my email, Nova. If you could email me about that, that'd be great. Having said that, people are like, "What are you talking about?" Because this is Marxism. So true Marxism. So yeah, like, what is it? What is Marxism? How what is true Marxism? Because that sounds like special pleading or no true Scotsman to me from a logical stance. To say true Marxist or something like that just seems like you're saying that they didn't do the real one. Because if they had done the real one, then it wouldn't have failed. But because it failed, it obviously wasn't the real one. And then this becomes uh, within logic, that idea is an unfalsifiable idea, and it can, because I usually cover religion on my channel. It's the prayer, if it's a genuine prayer, will be answered, and it will be answered in a way that you would want. Like, it will be a yes. In other words, it won't be answered yes, no, or maybe, because you might as well pray to milk because you'll get the same answer. Yes, no, or maybe is an 8 ball. It's not really an answer. An answer means, I'm hoping for this specific goal of this to be, granted. It's like a genie I'm wishing upon. That, it's like, I want this to happen, and then that happens. Okay, there's an answer of prayer. From my perspective, that would count. Although sometimes you get that, but at any rate, so if the prayer is genuine, then it will be granted as you wish. So then the person that says, well, but I prayed and it wasn't granted, well, then it wasn't a genuine prayer. So then it becomes completely unfalsifiable. So the system wasn't true because it failed. And so if I tried my version of it, see, then and that one failed, then it wasn't the true one either. But you don't know until you've tried it, and then it fails, right? So it's completely hypothetical at that point, and of course, you've built in a mechanism that makes it unfalsifiable. You never get to the point where anytime it fails, it would just be blamed on. It wouldn't be blamed on the system; it'd be blamed on you, or be blamed on some other factors. Like, well, we didn't get that prophecy right, not because the church was wrong, but because the people screwed up. See, the thing would have worked. And this is something I think I don't want to say Jehovah's Witness or the I'm not sure now, but either them or the Watchtower, I can't remember one that would always do. Well, wouldn't always, but like every now and then they would say, okay, the end of the earth is going to be like this summer for sure, and then it wouldn't happen. And then they'd say, well, it wasn't our fault. It was actually the congregation's fault because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so if they had done what they were supposed to do, the world would have ended. But now God has to delay its plans because people. And so you have an unfalsifiable idea that no matter what happens, no matter how many times it's tried and failed, you could say, well, but that wasn't the real one. So logically speaking, I have a problem with it. Hey, main gun. Yeah, no true scuffling. Um, okay. All right. Peace out, Nova Franks. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, no true Scotsman. The main gun, if you want to join in, we could talk about Marxism or other ideas. But capitalism. It was funny. I was watching this movie, and there's like capitalism has failed and socialism has replaced it, and all these people are being sent into space under socialism. And I'm like, is this like a propaganda film for socialism? Because I'm not sure that socialism would be able to get the sort of infrastructure going like that, but maybe it could. I don't know. But anyways, so it's like his ideology as a socialist plays into the state knows exactly what his desires are because there's no secrets. So they're able to give him just the right job for what he likes and then give him a robot AI companion android that's to his personal likes or something. So eventually he falls in love with the robot because basically she's made for him. And so of course you would, because she's made for you. But it was just, I couldn't tell if it was, to explore the idea of AI and falling in love, or if it was, to explore the idea of socialism in practice. I couldn't tell, and so, yeah, it was not sure I'd say interesting movie, but an odd movie. AI Rising, I believe, is the name of it. Anyways, Buzz says hi, Buzz. You can join in if you want. Anyone that wants to join in, let me know. I'll put the thing in. You can join in, whatever. Send a thing off to Frustrated. I guess, I might have, you know, uh, you know, not seen it. And I don't know why Twitter, like, unfollowed him for me or whatever. Ah, well. Weird. Anyways, I'll have to sort that out later. YouTube does that. I wonder if Twitter is doing that. Oh. Hmm. I tend to type, not sure how to join. Well, if I put the thing in chat, I'm sure I'll get at least one troll, but that's the only problem with this. Let's see if I can give it to you on Twitter or something. No, I guess not. I mean, I can deal with the troll if I get one, I suppose. See who's here. Socialism can work as self-interest seems to motivate people. Well, again, with this, well, what is socialism? Because somebody would say, well, this is not socialism or that's not socialism. So, it's again with this no true Scotsman problem of even if I do a Google thing and I say, okay, what's socialism? And I read some definition, somebody else can say, well, that's not socialism. So, it's kind of this problem. It's that damn problem of natural language where like people view words in different ways. It's like, is there an agreed upon idea of what socialism is? So then use that definition. I can talk about Pacific uh, Pacific things. Like here's what I think it is. I can talk about that, but without that, there's like no argument to examine. So this guy's version of Marxism that was in Aaron Raw's chat is apparently slightly different than the Marxism that failed. But how is it different, or is it really different? And again, is this an unfalsifiable idea? Because as I said in chat, Marxism's been tried and failed, but somebody said, well, it's not true Marxism. So, you have to find out what they mean. Let's see. Socialism. Let's see what Google has to say. So, political ideology, socialism is a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production and workers' self-management, as well as political theories and movements associated with them. Social ownership can be public, collective, or cooperative ownership, or citizen over of equity. So, what does that mean? Because what is the means of production? That's something where it's like, what does that even mean? Does that mean what does that mean? Because what is the means of production? Like, so does it mean when I go to work at the gas station, is the means of production the gas station, or is it the oil of the gas that's coming in with the truck, or is it the company? I mean, what does that even mean? Does it mean because I get a job there, I now own some stake in the company? Now I've heard that one socialist theory, and I don't know if it's agreed upon, but the one that I saw mapped out was that the workers uh, get a day where they are the bosses, and then they all vote on what the bosses who are now workers will do or whatever. So the bosses become the workers, and then the workers become the bosses, and so it's like you loop that. But there's so many. I don't know if that's what people would agree with, but I just saw so many problems with that because not only are you training for your job, you're also training how to manage people, and not everybody's going to be a decent manager. And then if you have everything filtered through a voting system, my goodness, I don't know how anything would get done. Even if because you're going to have ties, you're going to have, so you're adding in complexity to something that doesn't need it. So I don't know. I don't think that would work. Uh, it's supposed to be yeah. Everything could be defined as a means of production. Uh, yeah. Yeah. The body, the human body, every part works for the good of the entire body, but the individual things in you don't know any. They don't have any consciousness. So there's a great anime you should watch called Cells at Work. Beautiful, love this anime. Does biology right, gets the science right. They're really sharp, and in that, the you could say that all the characters, because you have red blood cells who are now human-like. They are under essentially, I think, some sort of socialist regime in a sense, because none of them are individuals. They're all working they were born to work in this job, and they are all working for the survival of the body. And none of them, they don't get any break time. There is no break. It's just work. They work 24/7, and if you stop working, you get killed by one of the T cells, or the the white blood cells or whatever. So, if you stop working, that means you failed as a cell, so something went wrong. So it's time for you to die. uh, but, there's no individuality there, even though our characters, because we have to relate to the main character, and our characters have their own personality, but they don't have any freedom of will. They are born into the thing, and then they do the thing they were born into until they die. Now, that's been promoted in science fiction sometimes, where you genetically alter the human at birth so that they are born to do this thing and they enjoy that thing. So it's not wrong to put them into a job that they enjoy. But the question is whether it was wrong to make them be that thing that they wouldn't have otherwise been. That's one of those sort of deep questions. Is it a human at that point? And 90 million died under Mao's ideas being put into practice. Yeah, it's the numbers are horrible. The amount of death is horrible. I don't know. I mean, for a system to fail, I don't know if you have to have deaths to say that a system failed. But when a system fails and it causes a bunch of deaths, I think that it's probably a good idea to stay well away from the system. Or you say, well, what part of it worked in what way? Maybe you can take that one element out of it and isolate it from the other parts of it, because we're trying to figure out what's the best way to make the world go around. That's what capitalism and socialism and democracy and republics and politics in a broad sense is. What motivates humans to work? Because how many people would be lazy if they could be? How many people would not work if they didn't have to work? That unanswered question is out there. Like, if everyone got everything they needed, but what is it you need? Well, shelter, food, and healthcare, I guess. Mental care. Quality of life. So if you had all that, would you be content and not work, or would you be bored out of your mind and go work, or would you just read books all day, or what? Who knows? Um, and I don't know the number of people that would be lazy or the number of people that would work, and I don't know the number of people that would work really hard to do things. But I do know that even under the best systems, like, it's a very small amount of percentage of people who work really hard and do all the work, and a very large amount of people that profit off that small amount. If farmers, for example, rebelled, we'd all be screwed very quickly. So you got to keep the farmers very happy, because they produce the food for everyone else. So you could say they are the means of production. So if you control the means of production, that means you're in charge of the farmers, right? I don't know that the farmers would like that. So uh, some think the mystical experience happens when the cells talking to each other all at once. Well, I don't think cells can talk at all, so that might be what some people think, but you have to show that it was true. Uh, yeah, self-interest gets people to work. Right. If you offer enough money, people will do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. It's like, well, why is it that waste extraction person gets paid ridiculous amounts of money? Because nobody wants to do it. That's why. I mean, you can make good money doing that. You make good money as a trash person. It's a really good job to have. But it's weird. As kids, you'd be like, "Oh, your dad's a trash person." Yeah, he's making more than yours, sucker. So what are you making fun of? Look at the money that they earn. They earn a lot of money. So but you also have to be willing to sacrifice something that not all people are willing to sacrifice. So you can make was it? I think it's $16 an hour at this chicken slaughterhouse near where I am. That's a good amount of money. But do you want to slaughter chickens all day? Because that's your job, is to either kill the chickens or clean the chickens or whatever. It's gonna smell. It's gonna be, just, who knows what it's not gonna be fun. Eventually you'll get numb to the smell. Eventually you get numb to the sight of blood. Eventually get into a rhythm, and because you have to do it really quickly. But you have to sacrifice a part of yourself to do that job. So you make this estimate in your head of, do I want this amount of money versus do I want to, kill chickens all day? And the money might win out for some people, and for others they're like, look, I'd rather be poor than to do that job. So and so some people are poor because they would rather be poor than to do some job like that. So you say, well, but they're, it's like, that seems weird. Like, why would you ever choose to be poor? Like, why wouldn't you do this job no matter how disgusting it is, because you're gonna get money? It's like, well, yeah, but it's this like paradox of a situation where it's like, yes, I could make that much money doing that job, but I can't do that job. Like, I can't bring myself to do it. So, you like, I'll do this other job. I'd be happy doing that. It's like, well, but you're not qualified for that one. So then what? Each according to his need, each according to his ability. Yeah, I don't even know what that doesn't make sense to me either. Like, because what is it you need? Like, what does that mean? Like, what do you need? Like, what, food? Do you need food? Like, what kind of food? Like, okay, like your ability. Like, what's my ability is to make YouTube videos. Like, that's it, right? If that's my only ability, say. It's like, well, how's that going to work under that regime? Because what use is that to people? Really. I mean, it might be useful to somebody. Somebody might appreciate it, but how if it was, you know, you know how is it that you have to go to work and shovel manure all day long? My work is to make videos all day long. You're probably not going to think what I do is fair. And with the system we have, it might be that the person that makes videos gets paid way more than the person that shovels manure, even though the manure job is pretty good pay. But that's the sort of weird system that we have, and it seems to work for whatever reason. As far as not everybody's going to be able to make. Oh, I got somebody joining in. Oh, Frustrated, here you are.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, I was hoping to get a hold of you. Twitter. I don't know why or how it happened. Twitter unfollowed me from you, so that was weird. So I don't know what happened, but yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So I was like, well, okay, I followed you back. I was like, what the? Anyways, I saw you in the chat with Aaron Raw, with the guy that was talking about Marxism. You wanted to clarify some point. So what was it that was brought up that you wanted to clarify?
well, the thing is
You got
the
a
way.
train. You
Yeah, I
want to
got a
wait for the
train coming
train
by.
to pass?
Sure, sure. Give me a second.
Choo choo. Yeah, I've got a train here that I can hear. So in many ways, it's like I've gotten used to it. It's like it's kind of like relaxing now hearing it. It's like, oh, it's a train. It feels
Mm.
good.
Alrighty. So some of the things, some of the issues is the fact that the way that it was being explained was completely and utterly. There was a disconnect between the two of them. So
Mm-hmm.
he was looking at it specifically through his Marxist position, and pretty much kind of like the history behind communism and all this other stuff. Whereas Aaron was actually looking at it through the way it's been applied today. So, and there's a big disconnect there because, for starters, communism as we know it today has never, ever been in effect, period, whatsoever. And that's only because the communist that we know today is actually a butchered version from Lenin. Lenin had saw Marx's ideas, and what he decided to do was to make some changes to it to where the government was still present within communism. So that way he pretty much, could have his job in a sense still and be able to have communism at the same time. And this version of communism has failed constantly. So a true Marxist communism has never been put into effect. Everyone else has followed Lenin's version, and so this is the biggest issue here, is that Marxist communism has never been in effect anywhere, period. And the way Marx had described it was the fact that this whole entire thing is kind of a philosophy. It's a school of thought, and in a way, it is a methodology. The way that he was described, what he was saying, is correct that it's a methodology. But this was communism. Communism itself was Marx's child, if you will, because the way he thought it was that that people were going to get tired of capitalism, and that what was going to follow the capitalism was socialism through a bunch of different revolts and whatnot. And then socialism still has government to it. It's not completely done away with government. So what Karl Marx had thought was that inevitably, like the guest said, inevitably, socialism would eventually, through more revolts, lead to communism. And so, and of course, Marx's idea of communism was more or less a utopia where everyone is producing for everyone and everyone gets the same amount of the needs and all that other good stuff done with. And theoretically, this school of thought is idea for society. Everyone's working to help out everyone, if you will. But within communism, there is very little to no government because everyone's just working for everyone, and it's kind of not a big deal to have a government in that point. So, but the disconnect that Arn was having with the gentleman was the fact that Arn can't see it outside of the butchered version of communism. He's not seeing this outside of that. He sees it as the way it is today, the way it's been represented throughout history. And so the gentleman who he had on was trying to, and he wasn't explaining it well enough to be able to get Arn to understand it, but he was trying to explain how, to being a Marxist just means that the goal is not communism the way it's viewed today, but the way that Marx himself had viewed it, and the way Marx himself wanted to had envisioned it back during his time frame. and Marxists are just people who follow that.
Okay, so because in the chat, I'd said, from my perspective, what I know of history, which, who knows how little I know, but that Marxism has been tried and failed, and someone countered with what you said is not true Marxism, which I view as a logical fallacy of
Well,
either.
yeah, I can see that, but the thing is what has been applied is not Marxism. It's not that it's not true Marxism. It's just that it's not Marxism. It's
okay, so
Lenin. It's Leninist communism.
Okay, so is this a problem you think of labels then? Because you also said that like the socialism of today is not the socialism of yesterday or something like that.
No, I said that communism,
or communism,
the way it is practiced today, is not the way that Marx had envisioned it, because Lenin had butchered Marx's ideas. And because Lenin butchered Marx's ideas, what has actually been applied throughout the centuries has been Lenin's version of communism. So
the argument then is that it's never actually that Marxist's Marxism hasn't been tried then.
Yeah, that has not been fully done. It never has.
Is the problem?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is the problem, because I say, it's a labeling problem, maybe, that, it's like when something gets a bad rep, like that my thought is, let's get rid of the label, let's get a new label, because it's just,
well, the thing is it's not necessarily even a labeling problem. It's the fact that people don't know the history of it. People don't know that that communism isn't what it was back in the day, or what Marx had envisioned it. Communism hasn't never been, though in practice, communism has never been the way Marx had envisioned it. And so because it hasn't, it isn't even Marxism. It's not about the label Marxism. It's about the fact that people don't understand history.
The other thing is that I have kind of a logical, well, me and logic is like my thing, but the idea that we would know what because you said, this is what Marxist envisions. Like, well, how do we know what he wanted? Like, unless he laid it out very thoroughly.
Because he did lay it out.
He did. And so does everyone that agrees with this idea or wants or whatever all agree with a certain interpretation of this, or is there's no factions or anything like this?
Well, the thing is that Marxism, the way Marx laid out communism, has been something that is viewable. As a matter of fact, you can actually look up Khan Academy here on YouTube and look up Khan Academy communism, and they explain it out in detail the way Marx had envisioned it. That this was a philosophy that he had, that he believed would arise if under the right circumstances. And so this was his thought child. Now, the way people today view communism is that they still think that communism that's been practiced has been the communism that Marx had envisioned, but it's not. And so because they don't know the history of it, all they do is they go off of the way it's been practiced. And that's why there's a stigmatism behind communism. Whether it is indeed, whether or not Marx's version of it is what's best for society today, I can't say. I'm not going to assume that it would be. I'm not going to say anything about it because I wouldn't know what that looks like because it has never been done. Now, but what I can say is that in theory, the way he has it out, it was idea from what he was, from his time frame was that it was idea, that it was a very good thing to have. So,
so your argument here is not that this is something that you would necessarily want to see or think that you would be a good idea to implement. It's merely that you want people to understand the historical context and to make the best argument possible, which is we're really arguing against Lennoxism, Marxism, not Marxist Marxism, and so
well, it's not
maybe
even Lenin Marxism; it's just Lenin communism.
Lenin communism or whatever, to get all the labels straight or what have you.
Yeah.
So that the guy that was when he talks Marxism and everyone thinks, oh, it means this, it doesn't mean that means this, and so it's like this disconnect.
Because of that disconnect that people are having, and this was what Aaron Raw was having the disconnect at, was the fact that he's only viewing it from the way communism has been implemented, and so with the way it has been implemented has been from an authoritarian perspective.
And isn't the argument really that this is going to be what happens naturally? So then it doesn't make sense that anybody to try to force it into existence. That doesn't make sense then. If part of the ideology is that it's going to come into existence on its own.
Well, communism doesn't, from Marx's perspective, it doesn't just come naturally, because part of it had to do with the fact that you needed revolt, you needed people to uprise, you needed people to actually want to make the change and to do it on their own, that force it upon the rest of the world. Light bulb. So we have this this whole entire thing where it's not necessarily natural, but it is a product of what would happen if you were to put Marxism into effect, if you were to put his ideas into play.
Well, there's nothing stopping somebody from buying a plot of land and getting like-minded individuals to come in and to try it out or something like that. So
your light on your phone?
I'm fine.
Has any experiment like that been done?
Well, the thing is if you actually look throughout history, before, I think the last time we had a thing where everyone was for helping everyone else was during the Neolithic era. And once people started to get into bigger groups of people, a government was necessary, because the more people you have convening together, the more people have to actually be ruled, because of the simple fact that with so many people in an area together comes the fact that people are going to want to do what they want to do. And if somebody else gets in their way, there's going to be conflict. And we need a government to be able to be there to make sure that this conflict doesn't either happen or doesn't get out of hand. And so that's one of the issues with large groups of people. Now, in small groups of people, that's perfectly fine, because everyone will help everyone else as long as they understand that this is what's happening, is that, you are there to help, your neighbors and everyone like that. So in small groups, it would work more efficiently than in larger groups, in my opinion. Now, yours, this is a layman perspective. There could be someone who is actually more knowledgeable on these topics than I am, who may have a different perspective on this. But from my layman understanding of all this, communism works only in small groups, whereas what is necessary is government in order to keep large groups of people from, in a sense, killing each other.
Yeah, I mean, if that was kind of my thought, and I mentioned it earlier that before you came in, that if you had a small community of nudists, that if it's invite and everybody, whoever wants to be part of that, just comes in and be part of it, everyone's agreeing to be a nudist. And so anyone that is, then you have the question of, well, if somebody's born there and they don't want to be a nudist, then they have to leave, because the whole point is you have to agree to be a nudist to be part of this thing. So in that sense, that one extra person kind of screwed the system, because they were supposed to conform but they didn't, right? So is that kind of what you're thinking of, is where ideally everyone comes together and says, okay, yeah, let's all agree to do this, but the moment that you have somebody born that doesn't want to do this, but wants to remain, then what do you do with that person?
Then the person, it depends. Like, for instance, it depends on the government in place. Because if you have a society of people who agreed in your scenario to be nudists, and you have the one person who sits there and says, okay, I don't want to be a nudist, but I still want to live here, then it depends on the government in place. Because you can have a group of people who would be absolutely fine with non-nudists living in their community, as long as everyone's helping each other out. And then you can have people who will sit there and be like, no, in order to stay in this community, you have to be a nudist. So they'd kick him out. And then some countries, like especially in the Middle East, you'll have people say, if you don't follow along with the way we do things, then you will be imprisoned. So it just depends on the group of people themselves, and not everyone is going to work alike. Not everyone's going to do the same things that another group of people are going to do, which is another big part of the way certain things work, is the fact that we do have individuals. So
that's what I was trying to get at, is that even the idea that we could have a small group of people that all agree on X being the idea, as long as we didn't add any more people to that equation, then it won't topple over, it won't fall over. But the moment that you get more people in there, whether they come in by invite or whether they are born in there and they disagree, then you have conflict. So the only way to maintain that is
with a government in place.
Yeah,
and again, I could be, like I said, as far as I know, with communism, the idea is to have little to no government. So if communism is to work, then they would have to actually be on more of the little bit of government in place, because, like, especially if it's a large group of people, because like I said, small groups of people tend to be more understanding and to actually want to help each other out. Whereas the larger groups of people that you get, you're going to have people who are going to disagree. You're going to have people that are not going to want to help each other out, and all sorts of other things. So one of the things is that this is a group of people, but at the same time, you have to remember that this is a group of individuals.
Right.
These are not just going to be people who are all like-minded. And so this is what happens whenever you get into these kind of discussions, is that you have to remember that people are individuals, but it's a little bit, there's more nuance to it than just these black and white type of discussion.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, if you're trying to picture this, of course the word utopia doesn't exist. That like I said, you could get a group of people. I don't know how large, but potentially a large amount of people, and that are all like-minded. And as long as you didn't add more people, then that system would be stable. The moment that you get the dissenter, then that unstabilizes everything, because their selfishness, so to speak, is ruining it for everyone else. So either they have to be exiled, they have to be killed, something has to happen so that they're, and that's why you see the dystopian type of movies where it's like everything seems perfect, but of course it's not really, because something is off.
Yeah.
And so I guess the underlying thing with this, with Marxism or anything else, is that if you're aiming for something that is impossible, of course you're never going to reach that. So is that?
Well, like I said,
Hold on, we got a red alert here. Okay.
No, that was my truck. I turned it on and I didn't have my. Yeah, no, I just was over here at my mom's. I'm about to head over to the house, which is right down the road. And I got in my truck and turned it on, and because I don't have my seatbelt on, it went off.
You got trains, you got red alerts. I don't know what's going on over here.
But this is the thing, is that in theory it should work, but like I said, I mean, to me, I think that there's too many factors that would be in play that keeps it from working. So and I think communism, in my own personal view, because I'm just looking at it from a layman's perspective, someone who's more educated on the topic could come in and actually explain to me and say, oh no, it can work because of whatever reason. But from my layman perspective, in theory it would work, but in practice, I think communism in whatever form you like will probably, in large groups, will fail, in my opinion.
Yeah, because lots of things look great on paper, but humans are weird. So
I mean, hell, for instance, this is going to get a lot of flack from other people, but eugenics, for instance, on paper looks great because you can eliminate all sorts of different types of diseases from people and yada yada yada. However, in practice, it's a terrible, horrible, disgusting thing to do because you are literally killing people just because of whatever reason. Or you're making sure that the ones that have these diseases today become sterile instead of actually trying to work a way to actually be able to not have these sorts of diseases in the population by any other means than to sterilize them or flat out kill them.
Yeah, the question of human engineering is potentially being raised. That was in China with the doctor that had done this.
Yes, there's
his research was completely out. He didn't do any of the proper steps. So whatever it is that he learned is going to be lost to us because it's like under lock and key because he didn't follow the proper procedures. So
there's one that they are today actually doing certain things where you can eliminate certain bad traits in your children today. People who are trying to get pregnant, they can select certain genes that would be activated within their unborn baby and all this other good stuff like that. That's happening today, which in retrospect, in a broad sense, is in a way eugenics, but it's done in the proper way, where you are taking two individuals who are going to have a child and you are taking their good genes that they have, the good aspects of themselves, and you are making sure that those get highlighted within children that they're going to have.
You have the counter argument made. I hate to be a nerd, but I have to pull from Star Trek Next Generation, where they encounter a planet where they do genetic engineering, and so nobody has ever been born blind or deaf. And here comes Geordi, a character was born blind, but they developed a technology for him, and it winds up that his technology saves the people from whatever the crisis is. And so in their world, they never had that technology because they never had anyone blind. So there's an argument there that if the pressure of nature is not put upon you, you don't make the invention that might otherwise save you from disaster. So is that
one second?
Okay, good. All right.
Again, I just gotta mute myself. So give me 1 second.
That's fine. That's right. Go ahead and do that. Let's see if anyone in chat. Buzz had a bunch of retracted statements. I don't know what happened there. If he got spammed or or whatever manga, and it said I need stuff. The way to get stuff's money. The way to make money is work for it. Yeah, I mean that's pretty straightforward. Um, without money, I've tried to envision that sort of thing. It's like, well, what would motivate people to, like in Star Trek, where they don't really have money, but they kind of do. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like sometimes they have credits. It's like, they go back and forth.
Come on, get in one, brother.
What?
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking to my dog.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, correct. Are you back yet, or?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. You got a party going on over there.
No, yeah, no. I just got back over to my house, and I was talking to my dogs, where I was telling them to get in their kennels. What was the chat saying? I don't have that.
No, yeah, I was saying that the main. I was reading what main gun said, but yeah. So you,
wait, but before we continue, did anyone in the chat correct anything I said? Because
not that I could tell. No one has said much, but perhaps later they will. Make comments on what you've said or what have you after the stream is done. That happens. So I don't know if you'll get love or hate. Who knows? But this is.
I mean, either
it
way,
is what it is. Because I like to explore. I stand by my ideal, which is that ideas should be explored. All ideas, and again, where I was like, well, if we tried it and then we failed, or it failed, then we don't, then don't do it again because it's not going to work. It's already failed.
Yeah.
So.
But I will say something real quick for anybody who does come to this later and watches. If you do find anything wrong with what I've said, please do correct me. I do enjoy corrections more than anything else.
Yeah.
So, if you want to say that I'm an idiot, I don't care. I'm not going to listen to that. But if you have something constructive to say, like, oh, well, you got this part here right, but here's where you got wrong. Or if you want to say, oh, you're not exactly quite there. This is what you actually, this is what actually is what, then by all means do so. I will read it and I will actually reply, and we can start up a conversation.
I think that the other thing with Marxism is that it seems to be that a lot of these younger people on campuses and whatnot, we're seeing them say that they're Marxist, but what kind of?
Sorry, go ahead.
What kind of Marxist are they? Is the question that we have this just confusion. People, waving the hammer and sickle flags around. And then and also wearing a shirt with Marxist face on it, like it's like they don't even know what it is that they're in favor of at this point.
No, because what they should be wearing is, especially if they are in favor of the communism that they've seen today, then they should be wearing a shirt with Lenin's face on it, not Marx's face on it, because Karl Marx, like I said, his version of communism has never been in effect ever. And so for them to have his face on there is kind of, in a sense, would be a slap in the face to Marx. And because if Marx saw, I don't remember if Marx and Lenin were in the same time frame, whenever Lenin took his ideas and whatnot. But if Marx saw the way his ideas were being represented today, he would be pissed off, because he'd be like, that's not at all what I had envisioned.
What's being called the cultural Marxism, I think.
Well, that alone to me, I'm not in the R and Raw discussion. Cultural Marxism is apparently it's bullshit. It's not anything that's actually relevant. And it's anyone who talks about cultural Marxism is ignorant on what all this is.
Are they now, again, with these labels, because we always run into that problem, it seems like, where this label has been that it's cultural something, and they've decided to call it cultural Marxism and run with that. But what are they actually doing? What are they acting out? Because it is either Marxism or it's not. So if it's not, then what is it?
Well, it's not Marxism, but I have no idea what it is because I don't know what cultural Marxism is per se, because I've never come across that. I've never talked to. To be honest, I haven't talked to very many either communist or socialist. So I don't know what cultural Marxism is to be able to say, oh, this is what it is, or this is what they do. And so I can't tell you, but it's not Marxism because from my understanding, from what the gentleman in Arnwell's chat said, was that they aren't applying anything that had to do with the actual Marxist ideas or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. They didn't really go into detail on that.
Right. Well, this is again where, I mean, there's a whole article on Rational Wiki discussing cultural Marxism, but somebody that promotes that might say, "Oh, they got it all wrong," for all I know. But this seems to have come about. It's hard to know if they're getting anything right, but what I know is it came, where it came from, or what it is, or how it came into play, or who's doing it. It's hard to keep up with all the terms being thrown out there. Political correctness. Is it is it progressive? What does that mean? And it's because I'd said well, I think Bernie Sanders is too much of a socialist, and this guy rightly said, well, what's the definition of socialist? And I was like, oh, I don't even know. So what am I talking about? I'm just.
What's the definition of socialist?
Yeah, I was stopped in my tracks because I realized I was just saying words that I was like, if I can't even define what that is off the top of my head, I shouldn't label anybody with that, because it's not. Well, it's not. It's like, well, I'm dumb. I'm just saying something I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. So.
Well, the thing is yes, in order to call somebody by something, you should be able to know it, which is why I don't ever call anyone a fascist, because I have no fucking clue what that is. So I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to be screaming fascist because I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
So, so whenever, but I do know what socialism is, in a sense. I know the rough idea of what socialism is.
Yeah, I think that we have some of it, in effect to some degree, but
socialism is kind of
the idea of firehouses or firefighters and police that's supported by the state, and so it's like, well, that helps everybody. So that's my understanding of what that's a socialist thing or something. I don't know if that's right.
Well,
it's something I have to educate myself on a whole lot. Because I'm, it's like I don't know. But as far as political stance, I mean, I was like, well, I'm happy with capitalism. I mean, I'm sure it could be better, but I don't have any ideas. I mean, I have plenty of ideas.
Capitalism isn't at all great. It's what we have.
It's what we have, and
it's not necessarily great.
I mean, I mean, it's functional at the very least. I don't know how great it is or whatever.
It's a lot. It's less about people and more about corporations, if you will. So that's a big issue that we have here in the United States, is that capitalism is very, very big. Hold on. Okay, so according to Wikipedia, I just looked it up real quick, just so that way we can know terms. Socialism is a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production and workers' self-management, as well as the political theories and movements associated with it.
Yeah, there's that whole, we were talking about that earlier, means of production, and that being rather vague from my perspective is like, well, what do you mean by that? Because everything
by what?
Means of production. What does that mean?
Means of production is just work.
Right. So I'm already in charge of what work I do or don't do. So
do what?
I'm already in charge of what work I do or don't do. So I'm already in charge of.
Well, no, because the work you do is all controlled by the corporation that you work for. Everything, all the means of the production itself is owned and operated by the company, whereas socialism is that the workers in general work for what they want, if you will.
I see. Yeah, but I don't work for a company if I'm my own thing. Then it doesn't really apply.
Okay, well, what do you do for work?
This I'm doing it.
YouTube.
Yeah, like YouTube,
so,
not really for work, but I mean, this is what I do. This is I earn my money. I'd rather not discuss how I earn my money, but
that part, there's a stigmatization that needs to stop. Is we shouldn't be embarrassed about what we do for a living. Like, for instance, I don't make money. I make money somewhat through YouTube, but it's like $10.
Yeah, Sorry,
but the bulk of my earnings is through being a security officer.
Doing what?
Doing security work. I'm a security guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't put too much about me out. It's just one of those things for me. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something to do with lobsters. We'll leave it at that.
let's just say that let's just for sake of argument say that YouTube is your source of income, if you will.
Yeah.
In a way, you are working for yourself, but it's up to YouTube to pay for it. To pay you.
Yeah.
So you aren't. So even then, you're not doing it all on your own. Someone has to pay you.
Yeah.
And they get a percentage of what you make. So in all retrospect, you're not making it on your own.
Yeah, even if you're getting donations directly to you in the mail from people, then there's a question of how much. It's like, well, there's that, that possibility that you might pander because you want, more views, more subs, more money.
Well,
but if the whole reason why you're getting money from people is because you won't do that, then obviously doing that would be a bad idea, So it's
the thing is with the best way to go about this is the fact that understanding that when you do monetize your channel through, say, things like Patreon or PayPal or whatever, then in essence, what's happening is that you are producing a service that people are then paying for. People are paying for your service. So that is more incentive for you to create more of the service that you are producing, which in this case in point is YouTube videos, making more content. It's more incentive because you feel obligated to, because of the fact that people are now giving you money to do something that they want to see more of. So when that happens, you then have to take that money and then, if you're smart, reinvest it into the channel. And that's the best way to go. Like, for instance, if someone's going to say, someone says, I'm going to donate on Patreon and become a Patreon for $20 a month, then what you do is you can take that money that accumulates. You can let it accumulate for a while before depositing it into your bank. And when they does that, you can then take it and get things like a better camera, a better computer, or a better microphone, or a better this, a better that. And then it just helps go into the channel itself.
Oh yeah.
Like, for instance, I got to
Ideally.
get back. Yes. It doesn't, and if this is your means of, your sole means, then of course you're going to put priorities first, as in, getting food and paying your bills.
But then the question wraps back around. I control the means of production. I am the means of production. The only things I don't control are YouTube and PayPal or whatever. If I somehow get people to just send me money directly through the mail, I don't control the mail. So there's something somewhere that I don't control and will never control. So I don't know how that that's where it's like, well, what do you mean by the means of production? Because that's unless it's settled in like, this is what that means, X, Y, and Z. Then there's.
I'm trying to remember the scenario that someone placed out. That, okay, you have a factory. Now, you have a factory and you have workers, of course, in all these scenarios. So, in the capitalist version of this scenario is that the owners of the factory are paying workers to create products that then the bulk of the money from those products goes directly to the owners of the factory. And they give a small percentage to workers. In socialism, if I'm not mistaken, I think the scenario goes that you have the factory workers producing the products and getting paid for those products as well. And they're getting a fair share amongst each other.
So
with the owner of the factory getting his fair share as well.
Yeah, so then it would seem that might disincentivize people to own factories, because then they make less money, or it would incentivize them to have robots, because then they only need one person to fix the robots.
No, everyone, the people are in somewhat control of the situation, the workers. And then you have communism, where there is no owner of the factory, that everyone is there to help produce good for everyone else.
Yeah, but like I said, that either system you can be replaced by robots. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
it could, but the workers that you just listen. The workers that you just laid off are still going to get paid.
Well, but I'm saying
they're still going to get the goods that come from the services.
If you start out with robots, then you don't ever have that problem.
But that's just the point. Is that you don't just start off with robots.
Right. Well, that's what I don't know why that came to mind, but I was thinking of how I've noticed in, say, Walmart, that there's less and less cashiers, more and more checkout yourself. So it's like, we don't have to look. You do the work for us. We don't have to do it for you.
No. That's because you don't understand. You're not working within Walmart. I've worked within Walmart for a total of like 3 or 4 years, and I know what's going on within the actual company itself. So it's not necessarily
money to do.
Well, so I'm gonna say recently, but it hasn't been all that recently. But the ownership of the of Walmart has switched hands. It went from the Walton family to another company, and when that another company came in, they decided to to revamp up the company, and they are doing anything and everything to maximize profit. And it's not that they're bringing in more robots; it's the fact that they are drastically reducing hours, and they're drastically cutting back people to the point where there are people who have worked there for years upon years, besides the older people, who are actually getting out of the company because it's either get less money or leave and go find a place that'll give you, if not the same, more.
Yeah,
So,
it's essentially the argument I've been hearing against, say, what's being called globalism, is that the company is just, it's like companies have already hired out, any call center you call into is you're going to be talking to somebody foreign. You're not going to be talking to an English person, like anywhere now. Like, I don't even know if there's a company that still has American.
oh no, there are companies that still have English speaking people.
But if you, so the in that sense, it's very, if you can find somebody that you can get to a decent level of competency and pay them less than you pay the other people, then you do that. And
do you know how much a call center person makes?
oh well, yeah, well, yeah, that's like I've seen documentaries where that that's like their whole thing, and I want to say in parts of India that like they're like the biggest thing you can do is be a call center person. That's the job, because comparatively to what we would earn there.
Well, I'm talking about just like let's just say a call center here in America.
Yeah, no, you earn.
You know how much they make?
Not very well. Depends on what it is. It depends on if it's sales or
most call centers pay bare minimum about $13-14 an hour.
Yeah, the one I worked at didn't. But it depends on what kind of thing it is or what it does and all that. Because
like I said, most of them do.
Yeah. But at any rate, I think that there's a lot of concern that a lot of people have that what jobs are going to go away, how are we going to what are we going to do in this world that's slowly unraveling. That's why maybe people are trying to latch on to anything, whether it be Marxism or socialism or whatever it is, and I think I agree with you on that. People don't know the history and they have no idea what they're grasping onto, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
And I see the other big problem with these students boycotting people to talk and whatever in university. It's like this is sheer madness of not wanting to hear people's ideas. You don't even know that you disagree with them. You just think that you will.
Yeah. But one of the things is that your whole entire spot where you talk about how people are getting let go of in areas and whatnot, and companies are maximizing profit not to help pay their employees, but for the bigwigs to be able to have a fat check, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest issues with capitalism, is the fact that it is not about the workers, it's about the bigwigs. Where socialism, in a sense, makes it more about the workers. Now, is socialism the answer? Probably not. I don't know, because most socialistic countries I've seen are countries that aren't doing very well at all. But that's just from my limited understanding.
Yeah.
So I can't say.
Well, I mean,
it's the way to go either.
Yeah, I mean, well, if I was in charge, then things would be perfect, obviously. But right? I mean, we all have that fantasy of an ideal. I don't think it's wrong to aim for an ideal as long as you know that you can't reach it. Like, you can't ever get to the utopia because it doesn't exist, but you can aim at it. I think it's an okay idea, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's complicated, but I think you have brought some ideas for people to consider to it, and I'm glad that you were willing to do that because I did, I was just looking at it from the pure label logic perspective, and I think you outlined how that could be misused here because it's like, well, you're not really talking about the thing that you think you're talking about. Here's why. Okay. um, so yeah, I guess I would ask if you want to say what um, system of politics you do support at all, or do you want to just be kind of not known on that? Like,
well, it's something I don't. It's not that I don't want to tell people. It's the fact that I don't know.
okay.
I do lean more towards the left. I do believe. I do lean more liberal than I do anything else. As far as that, I do believe in. Not necessarily no government or very very little government, but less government influence than what we have now.
Mm,
I don't know exactly where I land on certain topics. I have to listen to them and be able to figure out where I feel on those specific topics. I took one test that told me that I was a libertarian, but from what I've seen of libertarians, I don't identify as a libertarian. So
yeah.
I don't. So to me, it's very complicated.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like I took the main political compass test that's out there, the one you always see with
yeah,
the four quadrants.
yeah,
I took that a long time ago, and I was like pretty much where Gandhi is marked, like a little bit down from that. But I took it lately, and I'm like down in the center, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? I don't know.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I don't know where I fall on that, and but the thing is I know that capitalism has major issues with it.
mm,
And one of them being is the fact that we the working class works their ass off for very little in return,
mm,
and that is to me an issue. Is that we have people who run the companies that will be making millions upon millions of dollars, and you have people at the bottom who bust their ass for working. Sometimes some of them work over 40 hours a week and only make enough to survive,
yeah.
and it is an issue in my opinion.
Mm,
I'm not going to sit there and say that people without education, such as people who haven't gone to college or whatever, who do go into like McDonald's and whatnot, should be paid as much as the corporate people or the people who do have education. Like for instance, I don't think that people should just be getting paid for doing absolutely nothing, but at least some people should be able to get paid enough to live, enough to survive on. And
mm.
you have some people who are out here working two, sometimes even three jobs, and are barely making it with that.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, I've experienced that in my life, and I've seen, I've heard the company say one too many times to my mom when she was trying to get work, "Oh, you're overqualified," which is just code for, we're gonna find a reason not to hire you. It's like
yeah,
it's like okay, you don't want to hire her, why? It's not that she's overqualified because that's not a real like look, if you're applying for a job, that means you want the dang job. It's like, oh, I'm gonna leave the minute I find something better. No, if I could get the thing that was better, I would be applying for that. It's just nonsense. So,
no.
but it's not a perfect system. I don't know that there is a perfect system.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think that Yeah, I don't know. I think we might have answered the question. Has true Marxism never been tried? You've said no, it hasn't been, because the guy Marxist, that his version of it hasn't been put, like, at least well, like I said, maybe it was put into practice somewhere that we don't like. That's why I was asking, like, do you know of anywhere that tried it at any scale or anything like that?
No, I don't know of any place that's ever tried true Marxist communism.
Well, there you go. That's something that, if somebody has enough revenue to get like a small piece of land and say, hey, come in here and we'll try this out, see what happens. Prove it
Well,
works or doesn't. I don't know.
Again, this is something that that can't exactly happen on a small scale, in my opinion, because you can get a big piece of property, or even just a few acres, and have people living on this, all chipping in to help each other out, type of thing. In small groups, you can find like-minded individuals who will be okay with that and actually do this type of stuff. It would have to be at a governmental level, as in a country type of level. Have everyone within the country participate in it to see if it'll work.
That's an awful big risk for
yes,
anybody to take.
Which is why a lot of people, which is why it hasn't been done.
Huh. Well, there you go. You just got to get enough people that makes a country, however many that is. I don't know.
Or I mean, hell, you could probably get a good, I'd say about a good few hundred acres. Get people from all sorts of different areas and just lump them in on this property and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, maybe you could do it in a virtual world. That would be the way to set it up or something.
Possibly.
See, and then, because if you have a high enough number of people trying this or that idea out, then we could at least extrapolate some sort of useful data from that. So I'd like to see that, because without the data, I'm just flailing in the wind too. I don't know, and you don't know until. And so maybe that might be a good idea. Some of you get out there and make a VR that can do that. It won't be me. I don't know how to code.
Yeah.
But I didn't get fired from BuzzFeed, so I don't need to learn how to code. So it's all code. I had to throw that meme in there. All right. Well, anyways, thanks, Frustrated, for saying that, because I know you wanted to do that. Probably you might get more attention doing a video about it on your channel or whatever. That'd be interesting to see if you decide to make something like that.
I might go into an explanation on Marxism.
But you're gonna have to change out the capitalist pig for something else then.
Do what?
You're gonna have to change out the capitalist pig that you are for something else. The avatar there. Yeah.
Oh lordy. All I know is that I've been thinking about doing a video on capitalism, socialism, and Marxism, and communism.
Yeah. The political things I found is, like, when I did my little thing on it, I found is like, wow, I don't know half as much as I thought.
Sorry, I've got to go. My mom's
okay.
calling.
All right. See you later. Thanks for joining. There he goes. He poof, and he got. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I think I'm done too, because I've run the thing and I got the guy that I wanted to get in here to say what he wanted to say, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm sure that as this goes, people hear it, they'll say whatever they have to say in the comments, and directed at check out Frustrated Atheist channel. I'll link that in the description, and peace out. Use logic. That's all I got. Lobsters and logic, and stuff, politics. I don't know. Goodbye. Finn.